Hello and welcome to Stuff They Should Have Taught You in School. I'm Sui, as always, your host today on this educational podcast. Right, thank you, listeners, subscribers, people out there. I hope you enjoy and get value out of these episodes I do. If you do, let me know. Email me in the show notes, or it's monsui@icloud.com, which is also at the end. I'll mention that. Share it, like it, subscribe it, all this sort of stuff. It gives me, it helps me to then help other people and the masses to learn what they really should have taught you in school. Like, for example, debt. How can you encourage people out of school to go get into debt? Then they go to uni, they get a whole load of debt, and then they don't even not even be taught how to use the debt or what debt is, how it works. Also, disclosure, these are done in one take. Today's episode is a little bit of a technical one. You don't really need to understand how it works or whatever. It's about the rule of 72. You don't really need to know how it works. You just need to know that is what it is. So you can sort of use it to project your financial returns. So what is the rule of 72? So it's basically, it's a roundabout, rough, estimated way. So I'll emphasize again that this is an estimate. It's a rough, roundabout way to calculate how long will your money take to double, given whatever interest rate you're getting. So, for example, if you are getting 10% interest rate, it doesn't matter how much money you've invested. Say you're getting 10% interest rate. What you would do is you take 72 and then you divide it by 10 and you get 7.2. So roughly, it would take you 7.2 years for that money to double. Now this is sort of including like compound interest, and I think there's a couple of other bits and pieces that go. Like I said, you don't need to know the technicalities of why this works, how it works. I think some people sometimes use the rule of 70 or 69 or whatever, but it's just a rough indication. So you would say, okay, if I had 100k in the bank and I had it at 5% interest rate, how long would it take me to do? And, obviously the answer is 14.4 or whatever it is. 14.4 years. There's also another approach to this, which most people will just know the rule of 72 as how long will it take me to double my money at any given interest rate. And you can test this. So you could say, okay, look, what happens if I could have got that at 5%, 6%, 7%? You can split it up. Maybe some of the, generally speaking, the higher percentage stuff has more risk. So yeah, you might double it in a short amount of time, but there's more risk that you might lose it all, or you might get really bad returns. So it's a balancing act, really. I would obviously suggest that you diversify, and then you don't starve yourself to invest and things like that. So the second approach to the rule of 72 is that it basically tells you how long until your buying power is halved. So as we know, inflation is at pretty much quite high, and real inflation is quite high as well. I think I read somewhere that it was that we haven't had this high inflation since the 70s or something like that. So, but the thing is like, just a brief tangent on interest rates. In the UK, we've had very low interest rates for some amount of years. So now they're going up slightly. We're thinking, oh shit. Now inflation is here and it is quite heavy. But because we've been used to such low interest rates, now it's going up to even still what is quite a low interest rate. We're like, oh shit, this is too much. But it isn't. It's still maybe like the interest rate is maybe still below the long-term average. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I haven't done full research on that. But it's just not. My point is that it's not as bad as you think it is. It's only that bad because we've been used to such low interest rates for so long. Right. So anyway, so what it shows you is how your buying power is halved. So we know that inflation, if it's at 10% and you had 100 grand in the bank, which it is at 10%, and real inflation is maybe even higher at that. Maybe the quoted inflation is like 8%, 9%, whatever. But I've known people, where their building materials have gone up 100%, sometimes it's only a small amount, sometimes it's doubled, sometimes it's more than doubled, sometimes it's like 1.5 times. But the basic is here is that obviously things are going up in value, and you have different types of inflation. You have asset inflation, you have real inflation, you have the inflation rate that they give you. But what you would say is that 100k just sitting, if you had 100k just sitting in the bank, in a year's time, that's going to have the buying power of 90k. I.e., after 2 years, then it's now going to have the buying power of 81k. So if you imagine right now you had 100k in the bank, you could go and buy 4 houses. You could go and put a 25% deposit down on 4 houses, 25 grand, 20. Obviously, you need legal fees, which would be a little bit more, and searches and whatnot. But basic, if you just had that cost, you'd be able to buy 4 houses. After 2 years, you'd only be able to buy 3. So we know that this is happening. So how long will it take for that 100k to now be worth 50k of buying power? Same thing. You would divide it by the inflation rate. So whatever the 72 divided by the inflation rate, and would give you how long it would take for that thing to basically half in value. A quick tangent on this again is that yes, this money as sat in cash in the bank, savings will go down rapidly. I think I did an episode on this. However, what you want to, we're taught obviously save. Take care of the pennies and the pounds will take care of themselves. Whatever the saying is, a penny saved, a penny hand, whatever crap sayings that there are. But anyway, people tell you save. You got to save. That is true to a certain extent. You should aim to have some amount of cash in the bank that's maybe 3 to 6 months expenses, an emergency fund. But really, if you want to build wealth and you want to make that money work for you and make the money make money, it has to be invested. This is exactly what I do outside of the podcast, is I help other people invest their money into property, because property is tangible and it has all these other benefits, like you have cash flow and then you have capital appreciation. I'm not going to get into it too heavily, but property is one of those hedges that will go up with inflation. And it's funny because the value with property, you have three key points. You have the number one, you have the market value of the property. Number two, you have the debt that's on the property. And number three, you have the equity. The equity is literally the difference between the market value and the debt. So for people who are technical out there, you would call this assets less liabilities equals equity. Market value less the debt, the bank loan, essentially the debt, equals equity. Or the difference, but yeah. So what actually happens with inflation is it's very interesting, because inflation, well, what it will do is, on one hand, on the asset side, is it will increase the value of the asset, and then on the debt side is it will reduce the value of the debt, and then the equity is getting bigger from both sides. Isn't that crazy? That's why property is such a great hedge against inflation. Because your debt is eroded and the value is going up, so the inflation actually helps you. And by the way, so when you say debt is eroded, what it basically means is that it's basically the same thing of saying like 100k goes down to 90k of buying power. That debt is now, if you were to pay the bank back that debt, they would be able to buy less stuff with it. Basically, it's worth less. And okay, maybe we'll touch on this, but I'll do another episode on the what's it called? The quantity theory of money, I think it's called. Basically, if you think about this, a very simple. So I'll briefly explain it, and then I'll give you a very simple example, because I don't want to spend too long on it, because today's episode is about the rule of 72. So, if you increase the supply of money, the value of everything, If you increase the quantity of money in circulation, every single item will now require more money to be bought. Now, it might take a second to get your head around. I will do a separate episode on this, but imagine this. You have 10 apples and you have £10. There's £10 for that 10 apples. So the apples are £1 each. Now, what happens if I put £20 down? And there's £20 between 10 apples. I'm only saying 20 because it makes the maths easy. What is the apples now? £2 each. There's inflation. That is, no. That's inflation, yes, but it's inflation caused by increasing the supply of money, the quantity of money in circulation. And same thing here. After COVID, had a lot of money printed, things are going up in value. There's more money around and less and the same amount of stuff. So more money per the stuff. Slight tangent on that. Don't worry if you don't understand it. Today's episode, Rule of 72. How long? Two approaches. We're going to summarize now. How long? Two approaches to this. How long will it take for my money to double given any interest rate? Okay, so 72 divided by 5% will take me. Let's get a calculator out. 72 divided by 5. So that means it would take me 14.4 years. For whatever cash I have in there at 5% interest rate to double. Okay, what about 70? What happens if I was getting 10%? Well, easy maths there, 7.2. Take you 7.2 years for your money to double at 10% interest rate. So 72 divided by the interest rate. Okay, second approach. It gives you how long will your buying power basically, how long till the cash that you have halves in buying power. So obviously buying power goes down with cash due to inflation. So same thing. 72 divided by if the inflation rate is at 5%, 72 divided by 5, 14.4 years it will take for that money that you have sat in the bank to half in value, in real value. And same thing at 10%, inflation's at 10%, 72 divided by 10, 7.2 years for that cash to halve in value. I hope that makes sense. The rule of 72. So essentially you're just basically taking 72 and dividing it by the interest rate, or 72 and dividing it by the inflation rate. And there's a couple of assumptions in here. It's not accurate. It is an estimate. It is a rough figure. I think that includes compound interest. It may account for some other bits and pieces. Some people use maybe a rule of 71 or 69 or this or that. But, it's just a rough idea. It gives you a rough idea. So you can say to yourself, okay, if my money is going to double say it was going to double every 15 years, so 10%, at 5%, sorry, say you could get 5, you could easily get 5%. If you're in investments, you easily get 5%. So you would say, okay, it's going to double in 14.4 years. Let's round it up to 15. So you had 100k in the bank. How long will it take you to get to 1 million? Well, you probably won't survive that long. So we need to have another strategy. That's what sort of thing you would say. And you would say, okay, look, so it would take me 15 years to get to 200k, then it would take me another 15 years to get to 400k, then it would take me another 15 years to get to 800k, so what is that, 45 years? It'll take me another 15 years to get to 1.6, and you can see how this compounds and it gets bigger and bigger, the amount gets bigger and bigger. Anyway, you have been listening to stuff they should have taught you in school. If you like today's episode or any of the episodes, please let me know. Write a review, email me. My email is monsui@icloud.com. That's in the show notes as well. The shoe notes. No, the show notes. See, like I said, it's done in one take. It's not going to get edited out. It's spelled MONSUI. We'll just check it out in the show notes or shoe notes. And please leave a review. Email me if you want to come on the podcast. If you have any suggestions, give us a shout, and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you on the next episode.